Alex had always been proud of his work as a security officer for the United Earth Fleet. His missions had taken him to the farthest reaches of space, protecting diplomats, politicians, and other important figures. But nothing could have prepared him for his latest assignment: guarding Princess Lyra, the heir to the throne of the Loomis Empire. When Alex first received the orders, he thought it was just another routine job. The Loomis Empire was known for being secretive and powerful, but they had never been particularly involved with Earth's affairs. The princess, like many royals, was just a figurehead, a leader without much real power. At least that's what Alex thought. He was wrong. The first time he laid eyes on Princess Lyra, he was struck by her presence. She was taller than most humans, with smooth, dark skin that shimmered slightly in the light. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, catching the light as if it had a life of its own. But it wasn't just her appearance that made her stand out. It was the way she carried herself, calm, confident, and almost too aware of everything around her. It was clear that she was not just another royal. She was someone who had been groomed for greatness. Alex stood at attention as she approached, trying not to stare at her beauty. He had been trained to keep his composure, but this was different. There was something about her that made him feel uneasy, as if she could see through him, read his thoughts. "Are you ready to begin your assignment, Lieutenant Alex?" Her voice was soft but firm, the kind of voice that demanded respect without even trying. "Yes, Your Highness," Alex replied, keeping his tone neutral. He had been assigned to her protection, after all, not to engage in personal conversations. She smiled slightly, a knowing smile, as if she already knew what he was thinking. "I selected you long before they sent you," she said cryptically. Alex blinked, unsure of how to respond. It sounded like a strange remark, one that didn't fit the usual formalities of diplomatic protocol. But before he could ask for clarification, Lyra's attention shifted to the fleet ahead, her eyes narrowing slightly as if she were scanning the horizon. "We leave for the Icor system in an hour," she said, her tone suddenly more serious. "We need to prepare." Alex nodded, still unsure about her strange words. What did she mean by "I selected you"? Had she known about him before the mission? There was no time to ask more questions. He had a job to do, and he would do it. He would protect the princess no matter how strange she seemed. The journey to the Icor system was long, and during the trip, Alex had plenty of time to observe the princess. She never seemed to rest. She would spend hours in the ship's command center, reviewing diplomatic reports and speaking with her advisors. There was always something on her mind, something that kept her moving. Alex couldn't help but admire her determination, even if it made him uncomfortable at times. He had always considered himself a professional, but there was something about Lyra that made him feel unsettled. She was smart, confident, and in control of everything around her. Her beauty was undeniable, but it was her presence that left a lasting impression on him. But it wasn't just her strength that bothered him. It was the strange moments of connection they shared. When they were alone, she would often look at him with an intensity that made him wonder if she could see through him. It was almost as if she knew him, knew his thoughts, even though they had just met. One evening, as the ship passed through a field of stars, Lyra came to him on the observation deck. She didn't speak at first, just stood there, gazing out at the vastness of space. The silence between them was thick, and Alex found himself unsure of what to do. He was a soldier, not a diplomat. His job was to protect her, not to make conversation. "You're wondering why I selected you," she said suddenly, her voice breaking the silence. Alex turned to face her, surprised that she would bring it up. I don't know what you mean, Your Highness," he replied honestly. She smiled again, that same knowing smile. "You will," she said softly. "Sooner than you think." Alex wanted to ask more questions, to demand an explanation, but something in her eyes made him hesitate. There was a weight to her words that he couldn't ignore. The princess wasn't just speaking out of politeness or royal formality. She was saying something important, something that Alex couldn't quite grasp. Before he could speak, there was a sudden alarm. The ship jolted and the lights flickered. Alex's instincts kicked in immediately, and he reached for the weapon at his side. "Stay here," he ordered Lyra, moving toward the door. But she didn't listen. Instead, she moved toward the control panel, her fingers flying across the buttons. "They're here," she said, her voice calm, but her eyes flashing with something Alex couldn't quite place. "What do you mean?" "They're here." Alex asked, his voice sharp. They've been tracking us since we left the Loomis homeworld, she replied, not looking at him. They won't stop until I'm dead. Alex's heart raced. He had been assigned to protect her from possible threats, but this was something more. He didn't know who they were, but it was clear they were serious. He had no idea how the princess knew this, but he couldn't question her now. The ship rocked again, and Alex rushed to the cockpit, where the crew was already in a state of chaos. A warning blared from the main console. Enemy ships were closing in fast. Alex turned to the captain. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. I'll guard the princess, he said. The captain nodded, clearly trusting Alex's judgment. We'll do what we can, Lieutenant, but you better be ready. These ships aren't from the Loomis Empire. We don't know who they are. Alex gritted his teeth. Whoever they weren't just trying to capture the princess. They were trying to kill her. As the enemy ships closed in, Alex felt a strange sensation in his chest. He couldn't explain it, but the weight of Lyra's words and the urgency of the situation seemed to overlap in his mind. She had said she selected him, but now he began to wonder if fate had brought him here for a reason. He had always been a soldier, trained to protect, but now for the first time he felt like something more was at stake. The battle outside the ship was intense. Enemy ships fired lasers at the hull, causing the ship to shake and groan. Alex moved quickly, keeping close to Lyra as she remained calm at the controls, issuing orders to her crew. His heart pounded in his chest, but he could see the princess wasn't afraid. She was focused, determined. We have to get to the escape pods, Alex shouted, grabbing her arm to pull her away from the controls. But she shook her head. We don't have time for that. I'll be safe here. The confidence in her voice made Alex stop. There was something about her that made him believe she was right, that she knew more than she was letting on. But he didn't have time to think about that now. Outside the ship, the enemy closed in. The lights flickered again, and for a moment everything seemed to go dark. Alex's heart raced, but Lyra remained calm. She looked at him, her eyes meeting his with a quiet intensity. It's time, she said softly. We're not just running away. We're staying and fighting. The sounds of blaring alarms echoed throughout the ship. Enemy ships were closing in fast, their weapons targeting the fragile hull of the vessel. Alex's instincts kicked in and he moved quickly, ensuring that every door was sealed and every escape pod was ready for use. Yet even as the chaos unfolded around him, Princess Lyra remained eerily calm. It was as though the storm outside didn't affect her, as if she had seen this all before. Your Highness, Alex said, trying to keep his voice steady. We need to move to the escape pods now. But once again she shook her head, the soft silver glow of her hair cascading over her shoulders. No, Alex, we're not leaving. The calmness in her voice sent a shiver down Alex's spine. It wasn't the words themselves, but the conviction behind them that made him hesitate. There was something about Lyra that was unlike anyone he had ever met. While every other person in this situation would have been frantic, Lyra stood tall, her expression composed. Alex found himself struggling to keep up with her. As he moved to open the communication panel, Lyra was already at the bridge controls, calmly tapping at the holographic display. We're not running, Alex, she repeated. We're staying and fighting. Alex couldn't help but stare at her. She was the princess, the heir to a powerful empire, and yet here she was, not even flinching in the face of danger. He had been trained to protect royalty, to ensure their safety at all costs. But Lyra wasn't just any royal. She was someone entirely different, someone whose presence seemed to challenge everything he thought he knew about his mission. His thoughts were interrupted by the voice of the captain crackling over the comms. Lieutenant Alex, we've got enemy ships on all sides. We're doing everything we can, but we're not going to hold out much longer. Alex turned to Lyra, frustration and confusion mixing in his chest. Your Highness, you can't be serious. We need to evacuate. This ship won't survive much longer. Lyra met his gaze, her eyes as cold as the stars outside. I'm not going anywhere, Alex, you know that. She was right, of course. From the moment he had been assigned to protect her, Alex had known she was different. There was an unspoken power in her, something more than just royalty. Lyra wasn't afraid of the danger around them. She had the kind of strength that Alex couldn't quite understand, but it was undeniable. Alex watched her for a moment longer before nodding in defeat. If she was going to stay, then he had no choice but to stay with her. He wasn't about to abandon her, especially when he didn't know what she was capable of. The situation was growing dire, and he had no idea what to expect, but he had no other option. "Then let's make sure we're ready," Alex said, his voice firm. He moved to the weapons locker, gathering what he could. "We'll fight until the last breath." Lyra said nothing, her focus still on the screens in front of her. It was as if she had already calculated every move, every possible outcome. Alex could see it in the way she moved, the way she commanded her ship. She wasn't just a princess. She was a leader in her own right. As the enemy ships drew closer, Alex finally let his guard down for a moment. He realized that he had been looking at the situation all wrong. This wasn't just a mission anymore. It was personal. The bond between him and Lyra was growing, something he couldn't deny. He had always been a soldier, focused on duty. But the more time he spent with her, the more he began to question everything he had believed in. His thoughts were interrupted when the first blast hit the ship. The sound of the impact shook the walls, and Alex was thrown to the floor. He quickly pushed himself up, grabbing his weapon and moving to Lyra's side. She didn't flinch, her eyes still locked on the screens, calculating every move. "We have incoming fire," the captain shouted, his voice frantic. Lyra's fingers flew over the controls, and the ship swerved, narrowly dodging the next wave of blasts. "I'm not going to let them take me, not now," she said, her voice cold and determined. Alex couldn't help but admire her. She was everything he wasn't, calm, composed, fearless. But there was something else about her, too. Something that made him feel like he was falling into a deep, mysterious pull. It was the connection between them. Lyra had spoken of it before, that she had selected him long before they met. He had thought it was a strange, maybe even unsettling statement. But now, in the middle of a battle, he began to wonder if there was more truth to it than he realized. With the ship rocked by another blast, Alex moved to stand beside her. "How did you know I would be here?" he asked, his voice low. Lyra glanced at him, her gaze piercing. "I told you before, Alex. I selected you long before they sent you. You're not just here by chance." Alex blinked, confused. "What do you mean? How is that even possible?" She didn't answer right away, her attention fully on the battle. The enemy ships were relentless, firing from all directions, and Alex could see that Lyra was doing everything she could to keep the ship in one piece. He could tell she was exhausted, yet she never wavered. Finally, she turned to him, her expression serious. "The Loomis Empire's history goes back farther than most people realize. Our people have been studying the stars, the galaxies, and the forces that bind them for centuries. My role as the heir was never a coincidence. I knew even before I was born that I would need someone like you by my side." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. "You're saying that this was all planned? That I was chosen for this?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, Alex, you were selected for this role. I know it may be hard to believe, but you were part of the prophecy long before you even became a soldier." A mix of confusion and awe filled Alex's mind. A prophecy? He had always believed his life was his own, that every decision he made was his to control. But hearing Lyra's words, he began to question everything. Before he could ask more, a warning flashed on the screen. "Incoming boarding party!" the captain shouted. Alex's heart raced. The enemy was getting close, and there was no time to think. He grabbed his weapon and moved to the door. "We have to hold them off, Your Highness, now." Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "We will." As the enemy breached the ship's outer hull, Alex and Lyra fought side by side. The enemy soldiers were heavily armed, but Alex's training gave him the edge. With Lyra's calm guidance, they moved through the corridors, fending off attackers and protecting the ship's core systems. But there was something strange about the way the enemy fought. They seemed to know where the most vulnerable points of the ship were, as if they had inside information. Alex couldn't help but feel the weight of Lyra's words from earlier. This wasn't just an attack on the ship, it was a personal attack on her, and whoever was behind it knew exactly what they were doing. As the battle raged on, Alex began to realize that his connection with Lyra went beyond mere duty. There was something more, something deeper that neither of them fully understood yet. But one thing was clear: whatever the future held, they were in this together, and Alex would fight to protect her no matter what it cost. The battle for control of the ship raged on. Alex had fought in many skirmishes before, but nothing had felt like this. The enemy was ruthless, organized, and seemingly one step ahead at every turn. As the sounds of gunfire and explosions echoed through the corridors, Alex's focus was unwavering. His training had kicked in, and he moved with precision, clearing each room with swift, controlled movements. But no matter how hard he fought, the feeling of something bigger than just this attack gnawed at him. He could feel it in the air. There was more to this attack than just an assassination attempt on Princess Lyra. Whoever these enemies were, they weren't here for just the ship. They were after her, and that left Alex with one terrifying thought. What did they know about her? Why had they chosen now to strike? Lyra was by his side, just as composed as ever, her eyes scanning their surroundings as they made their way to the next area. She wasn't wielding a weapon, but her presence was enough to keep everyone around her focused. Despite everything going on, Lyra remained calm, moving with a quiet strength that made Alex's respect for her grow even more. She wasn't just a princess, she was a leader in her own right. You're wondering what this is all about, aren't you? Lyra's voice cut through Alex's thoughts as she glanced at him. Alex nodded, keeping his eyes on their surroundings. I know this attack isn't just random. They're here for you. Her gaze met his, and for a brief moment, Alex saw something in her eyes. A flicker of concern. It was only for an instant, but it told him everything he needed to know. Lyra wasn't immune to fear, but she didn't show it. She had learned how to hide it beneath the surface. They've been after me for years, she said, her voice barely audible over the sound of the chaos around them. It's not just about my position as heir to the throne. There are forces within my own empire that want me gone. Alex raised an eyebrow. Enemies within your own empire? Why? Lyra hesitated, then sighed deeply. There are factions in the Loomis Empire who believe I'm a threat to their power. They want to control the throne for themselves. Some see me as a symbol of change, but others are afraid of what I could bring. Change? Alex repeated, his mind racing. He had always known that royal families had their fair share of political struggles, but this sounded much deeper than that. There were powerful people inside the Loomis Empire who wanted Lyra gone. That wasn't just about the throne. It was about something much bigger. What exactly are they afraid of? Lyra's eyes darkened. I'm not just a figurehead, Alex. I was chosen for this role for a reason. The prophecy, the one I've mentioned to you before, wasn't just about my becoming the queen. It's about what happens when I do. The empire will either remain as it is, controlled by old powers and greed, or it will change. I will bring about that change. And those who hold power now, they don't want to lose it. Alex looked at her, trying to process what she was saying. A prophecy? You mean there's some kind of ancient prediction about you becoming queen and changing the empire? Lyra nodded. Yes. The Loomis Empire has been around for centuries, and for much of that time it has been ruled by the same families, the same bloodlines. But the prophecy speaks of a ruler who will break that cycle, someone who will lead the empire into a new era. That ruler, me, will be the one who decides whether the empire will remain as it is or evolve into something completely new. It all made sense now, but it also raised more questions. And these people, the ones attacking us, they don't want that change, do they? No, Lyra said quietly. They want to preserve the old ways, the old power structures. They don't care about what's best for the people. They only care about keeping their own position safe. Alex clenched his fists. He had seen this kind of corruption before, but never on this scale. An entire empire at war with itself because of the fear of change. It was clear that Lyra was right. She wasn't just fighting for her throne. She was fighting for something much bigger. She was fighting for the future of her people. Before Alex could respond, another explosion rocked the ship, and the lights flickered. He instinctively moved to shield Lyra, pulling her close to the nearest wall. The shaking of the ship only intensified the urgency in the air. They didn't have much time. We need to get to the command center, Alex said. We need to make sure the ship's systems are secure. We can't keep fighting like this. Lyra nodded, and together they sprinted down the hall, moving past crew members who were trying to defend the ship's vital systems. As they reached the command center, they found the captain and his officers engaged in a frantic effort to keep the ship from being completely overrun. Captain! Alex called out, rushing into the room. The captain looked up, relief flooding his face when he saw the princess was still safe. Lieutenant Alex, thank goodness you're here. We're losing control of the ship. The enemy's attacking our main power core. If they get to it, the ship will be destroyed. Lyra moved forward, her eyes scanning the screens in front of her. We can't let that happen, she said with calm authority. Prepare the defenses. I will handle the rest. Alex was taken aback. What do you mean you'll handle the rest? Lyra didn't look at him, her eyes focused on the controls. The Loomis Empire's secret weapon is hidden on this ship. It's time I activate it. Alex's heart skipped a beat. A secret weapon? What are you talking about? Lyra's gaze finally met his. It's the key to ensuring the Empire's survival. But it's also the key to changing everything. If I activate it, the Empire will never be the same again. Alex didn't know what she meant, but he could see the determination in her eyes. He knew that whatever she was about to do, it would change everything. The stakes were higher than ever before, and they were running out of time. The lights flickered again, and the ship jolted as another blast shook the walls. The enemy was getting closer, and the pressure was mounting. But Alex wasn't about to let them win, not while Lyra was still fighting for her people. Whatever the secret weapon was, it had to be activated now. Lyra turned to the captain. "Prepare for immediate action," she ordered. "We'll hold them off while the weapon is activated." The captain nodded, rallying his crew. Alex took his position by Lyra's side, knowing that the battle was far from over. But as they moved forward, he couldn't shake the feeling that the war for the future of the Loomis Empire was just beginning. The atmosphere aboard the ship was tense. The lights flickered with every blast from the enemy ships outside, and the crew scrambled to maintain control. Every minute felt like an hour, and Alex's heart raced with each passing moment. The enemies were closing in and time was running out. But despite the chaos, Princess Lyra remained calm, her eyes focused on the tasks ahead. She had been through worse before, Alex could tell. This wasn't the first time she'd faced danger, and it wouldn't be the last. As Lyra made her way toward the central control room, Alex couldn't help but marvel at her. She was everything he had expected from a royal figure, strong, composed, and fearless. But there was something else about her, something he couldn't quite explain. It was as though she had a deeper understanding of the universe, as though she knew what was coming before it even happened. Her every move seemed calculated, deliberate, as if she had been preparing for this moment for years. "We don't have much time," Alex said, following her into the control room. "The enemy is getting closer and we need to act fast." Lyra nodded, her gaze never leaving the screens in front of her. "I know, I've already prepared everything. The weapon is ready." Alex's mind raced. "The weapon? What exactly is this weapon? And how does it work?" Lyra turned to face him, her eyes filled with a quiet intensity. "It's not just a weapon, Alex, it's a tool that can reshape the future of the Loomis Empire. The prophecy wasn't just about me becoming queen. It's about the power that lies within me, and the power that lies within the weapon." Alex frowned, still trying to grasp the enormity of what she was saying. "You're saying this weapon is somehow connected to you? How?" Lyra took a deep breath. "The weapon isn't just a physical force. It's tied to my very essence. It's an ancient technology, created long before the Loomis Empire even existed. The creators of this technology foresaw the rise of a ruler like me. A ruler who would be able to activate it and use its power to either bring peace or destroy everything." Alex's mind spun. "So this weapon has the power to destroy?" "Not just destroy," Lyra said. "It can change the very fabric of reality. The prophecy foretold that a ruler with the right bloodline, my bloodline, would be able to use the weapon to bring about either a golden age or a time of destruction. The choice is mine." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. This was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. Lyra wasn't just fighting for the throne. She was fighting for the fate of her entire empire, the fate of countless lives. She held the power to reshape the galaxy itself, and she was the only one who could control it. "But if this weapon is so powerful," Alex said, "why haven't you used it before? Why wait until now?" Lyra's expression softened. "Because I wasn't ready. The weapon requires not just the right bloodline, but the right understanding. The ability to control it is not something that can be taken lightly. I had to be sure that I was ready to bear the responsibility. That time has come now." Alex watched her for a moment, trying to process what she was saying. He had always seen her as a princess, a leader, but now he saw her as something more. She was the key to the future of the Loomis Empire, and with that power came a burden that most people couldn't even imagine. He couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation. "And you're sure you can control it? This kind of power, it could be too much for anyone." Lyra met his gaze, her eyes unwavering. "I have no choice, Alex. If I don't use it, the Empire will fall. If I don't act, those who want to keep things as they are will destroy everything I've worked for. And if I hesitate now, I risk losing everything." Alex's chest tightened as he realized just how much was at stake. Lyra was not just a princess or a ruler, she was a person carrying the weight of her entire empire on her shoulders. The fate of the Loomis Empire, the lives of billions, rested in her hands. The sound of explosions rattled the ship again, and the walls shook under the force of the blasts. Alex looked over at the control panel where Lyra was already working, her fingers moving quickly over the holographic screens. She was calm, focused as though the chaos around her didn't exist. "We're running out of time," Alex said, his voice tight. "We need to act now." Lyra nodded, her face hardening with determination. "I'm activating the weapon now." As Lyra spoke the command, the room seemed to hum with energy. The air grew thick with tension, and Alex felt a strange sensation, as though the very fabric of reality was shifting around him. He had never experienced anything like it before. This was something beyond his understanding. The room was alive with power, a force that seemed to resonate with Lyra herself. Suddenly the ship lurched, and Alex grabbed the nearest console to steady himself. The walls seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, and the lights flickered again. The weapon had been activated, and the entire ship was beginning to change. It was as though the ship itself was alive, responding to the energy being channeled through it. "Alex, you need to hold on," Lyra said. Her voice steadied despite the chaos. "We're not out of danger yet." Alex nodded, still trying to grasp the enormity of what was happening. The weapon had been activated, and there was no turning back now. The choice had been made. Lyra was about to bring about a new era, for better or worse. The ship shook again, more violently this time. The enemy ships outside were firing relentlessly, but now Alex could see something changing. The energy from the weapon seemed to be affecting the enemy ships. They began to falter, their movements slowing as though the weapon's power was reaching out and disrupting their systems. Alex turned to Lyra. "It's working." "The enemy ships, they're being disabled," Lyra finished for him. "The weapon is not just a tool of destruction. It can manipulate energy on a cosmic scale. It's not just about attacking, it's about controlling." Alex's mind raced. Lyra wasn't just defending the ship, she was taking control of the entire battlefield. The enemy's weapons were being neutralized, their systems disrupted. Lyra's power was reshaping the conflict right before his eyes. But even as the tide seemed to turn in their favor, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The weapon was powerful, but it came with a cost. What would happen when the full extent of its power was revealed? Could Lyra control it completely, or would it consume her? As if reading his thoughts, Lyra turned to him once more. "This power can't be taken lightly, Alex. I know the risks, but it's the only way to secure our future." Alex looked at her, his mind racing. He had no idea what the future would hold, but one thing was clear. Lyra was not just the princess anymore. She was the ruler, the one who would decide the fate of the empire, and she had already made her choice. The hum of the ship's systems was deafening as Lyra's eyes stayed locked on the control panels. Her fingers moved rapidly over the holographic displays, adjusting the coordinates, monitoring the ship's status. Outside, the enemy fleet was falling back, their once aggressive pursuit slowing as their ships flickered in and out of power. Lyra had activated the ancient weapon, a tool of unimaginable energy, and now it was reshaping the balance of power in the galaxy. The Loomis Empire, once held together by a fragile web of politics and family lines, was now on the brink of transformation. The enemy ships were no longer an immediate threat, but the larger question loomed in Alex's mind. What would happen next? "Is it over?" Alex asked, his voice steady but with a hint of uncertainty. Lyra didn't look at him as she continued her work. "Not yet, but it will be soon." Alex stood beside her, his mind spinning with everything that had happened. The prophecy, the weapon, the power that flowed through the ship like a pulse of life. It was all too much to take in. He had started this mission as just a soldier, protecting a princess he barely understood. And now he was caught up in something far greater than he could have ever imagined. "What happens now?" Alex asked, his voice more quiet now. "Once the weapon is fully activated, what will you do?" Lyra finally turned to face him, her expression a mix of determination and weariness. "Once the weapon is fully activated, the Empire will change. The old guard will no longer control the fate of the Loomis people, and I will lead them toward a new future. A future where power isn't concentrated in the hands of a few, but shared for the betterment of all." She paused, taking a deep breath. "I'll lead the Loomis Empire into a new era, but it will not be easy. There will be opposition. Many people will resist the changes I intend to make. But I have no choice. I was chosen for this role, and it is my duty to ensure that the prophecy comes true. Alex studied her closely. He had seen the strength in her before, but now, with the weapon's power surging through the ship, it was clear that Lyra wasn't just a princess. She was a force of nature. Are you sure you can handle all of this? Alex asked, his concern slipping through. The power, the responsibility. It's a lot for anyone, especially for someone so young. Lyra's gaze softened, and for the first time she seemed vulnerable. I didn't choose this, Alex. It was chosen for me. But I have learned to accept it. The responsibility is mine, and I will carry it. Alex took a deep breath, trying to shake off the weight of everything. I can help, he said firmly. Whatever you need, I'll be there. Her eyes met his, and for a moment there was an unspoken connection between them. The tension that had filled their interactions earlier had shifted into something else, something stronger, more permanent. I know you will, Lyra said quietly. I've always known you were the one who would stand beside me. And now that the prophecy is starting to unfold, I know it wasn't a coincidence that we met. You're a part of this as much as I am. Alex felt a strange warmth in his chest. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was a part of something bigger, something that could shape the future of an entire empire. The weight of that was still heavy on him, but for the first time he wasn't scared of it. Lyra's hands went back to the controls, her voice calm and clear. The first step is to stabilize the ship. Make sure the weapon's power doesn't cause any more instability. We have to be ready for the inevitable backlash from those who want to keep things the way they are. Alex nodded. I'll make sure the crew stays focused. We can't afford to lose control now. As they moved toward the heart of the ship, preparing for what came next, the atmosphere felt different. The ship's corridors, once filled with the sound of gunfire and alarms, were now silent. The power that had surged through the ship in chaotic bursts was now quiet, controlled, but Alex knew that the calm before the storm was just that, calm. There was still so much to do, so many pieces to move into place. In the command center, the captain and his officers were already at their stations, working efficiently to stabilize the ship's systems. Alex didn't need to say a word to them. They knew their role. They had already seen what Lyra could do, and they trusted her. Lyra approached the main control panel, her fingers flying across the holographic controls. Status report, she ordered. One of the officers responded immediately. We've regained control of most systems, Your Highness. The weapon's power is stable, but we're detecting interference from the enemy fleet. They're regrouping, likely preparing for another assault. Lyra didn't flinch. Then we will be ready. We can't afford to let them regroup. I need to make sure that when they attack again, they will find a different empire. Alex watched her, feeling a strange mix of awe and admiration. He had seen her fight, physically and emotionally, but now he was seeing her in her true element. She wasn't just a princess. She was a leader, a ruler in the making. The power of the weapon was in her hands, and with it, she could reshape the destiny of the Loomis Empire. We will fight back, Lyra continued, her voice unwavering. But this time we will do it on our terms. Alex stepped forward, feeling the weight of their next steps. What's the plan? Lyra turned to him, her eyes sharp and calculating. We take control of their command ship. We show them that the old ways are over. We take the fight to them. I've been patient for too long, Alex. It's time for the Loomis Empire to embrace its future. Alex nodded. He had no doubt that Lyra could do it. She had already proven herself. And now, with the weapon at her disposal, the Empire's future would be shaped by her hand. As they prepared to engage, Alex felt a sense of clarity. His purpose, once so simple, had grown into something far more complex. He was no longer just a guard protecting a princess. He was standing at the edge of history, helping Lyra rewrite the future. There was no turning back now. Outside the ship, the enemy fleet gathered, their ships circling like vultures, waiting for the next opportunity to strike. But Alex knew the tide was shifting. The Loomis Empire was no longer the same. It was about to evolve, to become something new. Lyra stood by his side, ready to lead her people into a new era. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever enemies they would face, Alex knew one thing for sure. He would be with her every step of the way. Together they would shape the future of the Loomis Empire, and nothing would stand in their way.